Now we want to hear from the global multinational employer. So we have Paul Dixon, HR pensions leader for IBM UK. As you can see here, Paul has been the HR pensions leader for the UK IBM business for the past 3 years. And prior to moving into HR, he spent 15 years working on behalf of the trustee of the IBM pension plan. And Paul introduced a financial wellness program for the IBM UK employees in early 2017. So he's in his first year. I guess they just maybe reaching their first year anniversary of that launch, and has recently started to consider IBM's global financial wellness strategy. So nobody better to take us down the path of what an employer is thinking about. Paul, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And I will actually come back to talk about the hookup between IBM and MetLife in Japan a little later in my presentation. But let me start off by introducing myself and talking about my involvement in financial wellness initiatives to date, as well as looking forward to what IBM intends to achieve in this space in the future. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. As you'll see from the slide, and as Andrew has just advised you, my primary role is as the HR pensions leader for IBM UK, with my previous history up until 3 years ago, having been in the finance function of IBM, working on behalf of the trustee of IBM's trust-based pensions arrangements. And before I get into too much of the detail of my presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to reflect a little on my financial wellness design journey to see if this resonates with you and hopefully help you move forward in your thinking in this area. So as I already mentioned, I moved from finance to HR a little over 3 years ago now, and it wasn't until that move that I realised that there was another key metric in play. Having previously only ever really been concerned with the value on the bottom line whilst in finance, upon entering the world of HR, it became immediately apparent to me that employee engagement was also a vitally important metric, and I started to therefore think about how I could influence this key metric from the position that I was in. Now, almost at exactly the same time as me moving to HR and thinking about how I could influence employee engagement, IBM UK's then country general manager was signing up to the Time to Change pledge, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, is a pledge that can be made by companies in the UK to become better corporate citizens in respect to the important subject of mental health, pledging support and guidance to their employees on matters that will help alleviate mental stress. And it was really this that prompted me to start to think about how, with my background in finance and then now being in HR or in an organisation which as a whole was looking to support an employee's mental wellness, I could introduce ways of supporting IBM UK employees in the area of financial stress, which, as we've already heard today, can impact an individual's mental wellness and subsequently in turn their overall wellness as well. So if you go to the next slide, please. Now, the great thing for me was that when I started off on what I thought at the time was a new and innovative journey was the fact that, as you can see from this slide, IBM as an organisation already recognised financial wellness as one of the 5 pillars towards overall wellness, together with physical, mind, social and purpose. And that really helped me in 2 ways. First of all, it meant that when I started to talk to my upline managers about the introduction of financial wellness initiatives in the UK, I was essentially pushing an already open door. And then secondly, I also knew that whatever initiatives I would end up designing already had a framework and strategy that I could align them to, which focused on IBM's intent to improve employees' overall wellness. And therefore, simply, all I needed to do was to think about what these financial wellness initiatives needed to be. So if you go to the next slide, please. So again, at this point, I was fortunate enough to be working in an organisation like IBM, as IBM have their own methodology called design thinking to support its employees in helping to deliver great new user experiences, which can either, like me, be used internally for our own employees or externally for our customers and clients. As this slide shows, design thinking comprises of 3 main components. We have HILs, which are statements of intent that will help focus a project on big problems. We have sponsor users, which help understand what real target users need to be then used to extrapolate out to the wider audience. And finally, we have playbacks, which are used to support the team collaboration in developing the user value proposition. And on the next two slides, I have some examples of how I use IBM's design thinking methodology to support the construct of IBM UK's financial wellness proposition. So this first slide shows you the construct of just one of the employee personas that we created in the sponsor user phase of the project. Through interaction with a number of sponsor users, who we would use again later in the project to test out a prototype product, we developed a number of, in inverted commas, typical employees to understand how they feel, what they think, what they say, and what they do in respect to financial matters. As you can see from the persona of Billy, he has a growing family which demands a bigger house, a daughter potentially off to university in a few years' time, together with debt on his credit card. And whilst he recognises the need to think about these matters more and take action, he doesn't have a trusted source of information to support him. Billy, together with the other creative personas from the sponsor users that we spoke with, helped us to firm up the hills or statements of intent for this project, as shown on this slide. As you can see from these hills, the project set out to introduce free and unbiased financial education to our employees, as well as providing new and innovative financial benefits and making sure that our employees knew about IBM UK's existing benefit offering to ensure that they understood what IBM already provided to them in support of their financial wellness. Now, originally, I wasn't going to talk too much about the main solution that we adopted, which was the introduction of the Nudge financial education platform for IBM UK employees, as I knew Tim Perkins, one of the founders of Nudge, was due to speak after me on this call, and I didn't want to steal his thunder. But I think Tim is actually going to focus more on Nudge's 2018 financial wellness playbook in his presentation. So let me just take a moment to explain to you how the Nudge proposition works before talking about the impact it has had on IBM UK employees. And Tim, of course, feel free to chip in if I miss out anything fundamental. The Nudge system operates on the Nudge principle. Sorry, can you just go back one slide? Thank you. The Nudge system operates on the Nudge principle of behavioural science, in which positive reinforcement and indirect suggestion influences and incentivizes the decision-making of individuals. From a financial wellness angle, the Nudge system sends short, pertinent nuggets of information, called nudges, out about financial matters to employees based upon their profile, such as age and salary, and their registered interests, such as retirement or a proposed house move. These short nuggets of information are then supported by an exhaustive platform of independent and unbiased financial information, which individuals can then use to increase their knowledge and take action on financial matters. Also, and importantly from an IBM UK perspective, links to your company's benefit offering can be integrated into the Nudge system where they are pertinent to the topics that the employees are researching. So, for example, if someone is looking up the cost of holidaying abroad, a link to your company's travel insurance benefit can be provided. IBM UK began offering Nudge to employees in March 2017, and 43% of the eligible population took it up. A pleasing number for a new benefit, although as it's wholly funded by IBM, we hope to increase that number year on year. As you can also see from this chart, nearly 47,000 nudges were sent out from the Nudge system in the first 6 months, which has resulted in over 10,000 portal logins and access to over 55,000 web pages. Whilst this usage is also pleasing, later in 2018, we plan a Net Promoter Score survey to determine how our employees are feeling about Nudge and to understand how the offering may be improved. As well as the introduction of Nudge in IBM UK, some other financial wellness initiatives have been developed for IBM employees in other countries, with as Jeff mentioned a moment ago, MetLife supporting IBM Japan employees by providing seminars in which financial education is given on topics such as investment, retirement, and estate planning, which are then followed by sessions where individual questions can be asked and advice given. I have also personally taken on a project to ensure that financial wellness initiatives are provided to IBM employees globally. And whilst this project is in its early stages, on my final slide, I wanted to share with you my initial thoughts. Thank you. So when investigating financial wellness from a global perspective, I think first of all it is important to recognise that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Simply due to cultural and regulatory differences, together with the differences in the benefit offerings that already exist, that will influence each country's financial wellness priorities. Similarly, due to the diversity that we see in our workforces, no one strategy will necessarily be sufficient per country, and multiple strategies may therefore need to be considered to support the needs of the entire workforce. That said, I do believe that there is some commonality in the approach that you can take in the development of your own financial wellness program. For example, there are three main categories your program should consist of. As a minimum, both education and tooling should be made available to your employees to improve their knowledge and empower them to make sound financial decisions. And thirdly, whilst perhaps more of a moonshot given some cultural and regulatory concerns, where possible, advice should also be provided to support your employees in taking action on the education that they have received. Also, your communications on such subjects should use cognitive capabilities to ensure that messaging being sent out is personalised and relevant to the individual's needs and their position on their own financial wellness journey. So, for example, a 23-year-old is likely to need to understand different financial information versus that of, say, a 58-year-old. And finally, as I've already mentioned, your financial wellness program should also align with your other health and wellness strategies, allowing you, where possible, to utilise your existing vendor relationships to provide support to your employees in the area of financial expertise that they have. Again, for example, utilising your pension provider to provide information on matters such as contributions, investments, and retirement planning. So in summary, I would urge you to consider financial wellness initiatives to support your employees' mental wellness and overall employee engagement by identifying the needs of your employees and providing them with relevant solutions. Andrew, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thank you for the detail you've put into these slides. Greatly appreciated. I know that the participants that are listening in and thinking about their own strategy will benefit from the detail you put into this, and especially I think within a highly, let's call it, regulated market like the UK is, for you to be able to present your steps and the successes so far is wonderful. And so last but not least, we know that multinational employers cannot do or not take these steps alone. So I'm pleased to be able to now introduce Tim Perkins, co-founder of Nudge, who co-founded Nudge in 2013 and has led the business since then. Nudge, for those of you who are not familiar, is a workplace financial education provider, helping make money simpler for over 120,000 employees across 60 employers. So Tim, take it away.
Superb. Thank you very much, Andrew, and indeed to you, Paul. You've covered a lot of my ground, so that's much appreciated. It's a bit of a personal summary. I've worked in employee benefits here in the UK since 2001, working a lot with the likes of flexible benefits and pension consulting, and towards the end of that first decade, around global benefit admin. And as the slide says, I've led Nudge since 2013. There's really two elements to our solution. One is a passion for data. The other is a passion for behavioral psychology and the opportunities that present. And our solution is really about bringing those two things together in order to create and deliver a very personalized financial education experience for employees. If there's only three things that you remember about us, we want it to be the three I's, and that's number one, we're independent. So we're not pushing any particular providers or products, and I know that was key in IBM's decision to use us. As a result of being independent, it's a very inclusive service. So our youngest user is 16 and our oldest is in their 90s, and we're able to provide a broad level of support for those. And then thirdly, 2/3 of us come from an employee benefit background. So we go to great lengths to ensure that the services are integrated with the wider benefits package. And I know Paul touched on how we've done that with IBM. So if we go to the next slide. So the way that I wanted to deliver this was a very practical guide. So every year we produce an annual piece of research, and our latest research, which is being officially published next week via a webinar, is the Financial Wellness Playbook. This is based on research and interviews and experience across the UK and Ireland, but I understand that actually a huge amount of this applies broader, more broadly globally. So in terms of the financial education, the Financial Wellness Playbook, I'd say it's a very practical guide. We've pulled together 30 plays. So a play being a tip, a bit of recommendation, some suggestions. So if we could go back a slide. So we're pulling together 30 of those, and it's combining research that we carried out between October and November 2017, comments from clients and friends of our business, as well as the nudge community, so employees themselves. What's really key is in 2017, certainly in the UK and Ireland, financial wellness really came to life. The primary driver for that was the pensions agenda, and our relationship and experience with Paul is pretty typical of that. That said, there are still some inconsistencies in terms of what financial wellness is and how to deliver it. Personally, our view is that we're not able to double people's paychecks or magically write off all of their debt, but what we can do is give people the skills, the capabilities, and ultimately the confidence to make the most of their income. So that's where we tend to focus our solution. The next slide, it highlights the contents from that playbook. So as we can see, there's 30 plays, and broadly they're going in kind of chronological order, from defining what financial wellness means to your business, through to getting buy-in, launching it, running it, and ultimately measuring a program. And if we go on to the next slide, I've highlighted here the 5 plays that I wanted to focus on over the next 10 minutes or so. So if we go on to the next slide, I've identified here play number 2. So this is about carefully considering what's right for your people. I think pulling back to Andrew's introduction there at the beginning, people are looking for more support from their employers. People are spending more time thinking about their money, and ultimately the employers seeing the impact of that in terms of productivity and engagement. And it's therefore really, really key that any financial wellness program has your people at the center of it. What we've seen is, though, that as the demand for financial wellness programs increases, unsurprisingly, supply has followed. And certainly in our local markets, we've therefore seen a huge variety now in the types of providers coming into this space and pinning their propositions to the financial wellness flagpole. And what we're essentially doing here is letting people identify that there's broadly three categories of providers. There's those providers who ultimately provide a free, in inverted commas, solution, but they make their revenue from selling a product or service out the back of that. There's those who charge the employer, and the employer is actually putting their hand and funding this based on a business case and an ROI assessment. And then there's those providers who are perhaps selling a service, but in addition selling a product. And our advice and the feedback we got from the market is to really think about what do your people want. Do they want those end solutions? Are they comfortable paying for that themselves? From an employer's perspective, are you comfortable with making these introductions? And also, what do you want this program to look like? Is it a one-off project, or is it actually an ongoing program? And you can see from the research that we ran at the end of last year, the results were very loudly shouting that people are looking for that ongoing program, which is top left, as opposed to just a one-off intervention. So if we go on to the next slide, the second play is number 5, and this is about getting the business buy-in and specifically about linking to your leaders' passions. Now, the leaders of your business can make or break a financial wellness program like this. You need them bought in. In many cases, as Paul experienced at IBM, introducing a financial wellness program is new. It's new budgets. Potentially, there's new skepticism from employees. Why is my employer suddenly interested in my personal finances? So it's really, really key that from top to bottom of your business, everybody's joined up on why you're introducing it. As per Andrew's introduction at the beginning, there's plenty of stats about why organizations should invest in financial wellness, but why is it right for your organization? What's actually happening in your business? Paul mentioned as well that the one size doesn't fit all, and that's really where this comes to life. So what we encourage people to do is really try and position this in terms of your leaders' agendas. What's important to them? What can they really get behind and champion the program? The chart on the right-hand side of the page here show some of the main drivers that our respondents gave in terms of how they positioned a financial wellness program and how they saw that buy-in. If we go on to the next page, this is play number 11. And is that going to flick over? Yep, there we go. So the idea here being that there's never been a broader range of benefits within the financial wellness umbrella. But joining them up is absolutely imperative. Paul mentioned there about the opportunity to integrate financial wellness with the wider wider benefit package. And an example that I often quote is that if somebody's learning about children's savings, which in the UK, the particular product that we have is something called a junior ISA, that's the perfect time to let them know about perhaps other parental benefits. That might be childcare schemes that allows them to pay for some of their childcare in a tax efficient way. It might be reminding them about any life assurances that you offer by way of their pension or life assurance policies. So it's really important that you think of your financial wellness as an integrated program rather than a standalone employee benefit. And again, if we reference the chart here on the right-hand side, you can see that our research is very loudly emphasizing that, with over 70% of respondents saying that they see their financial education providing an opportunity to promote benefits, and 2/3 also seeing the opportunity it presents to better understand employees as well. So we've gone to play 18, which I think is my penultimate one in today's summary. Again, picking up what Paul mentioned, but I think to take it a stage further, Paul mentioned that a 28-year-old is different to a 50-something-year-old. I would argue that even two 39-year-olds are different. So a really personal example, I'm 39, I've got a big mortgage, I've got a wife, I've got 3 young kids. My best man is also 39, he's not married, he rents, and he's got a very different set of financial priorities to me. So you need to make the content as diverse as your people, and just slicing this according to age or salary isn't enough. As an employer, you're in a unique position to support your people. In many cases, you'll know more about your people than they know about themselves in terms of perhaps their benefit provision or their pension situation. So it's about using that data and that position of knowledge that you've got to make the content to offer a program that is as diverse as your people. And this differs significantly according to industry or employee groups as well. So what we've got there on the right-hand side is an aggregated view across all of our clients. But if we were to look at that in the tech sector or financial services or education sector, you can bet your bottom dollar that those top interests are going to be different. And then my last play, which is number 25, is with regards to behavioural psychology, which again Paul kindly mentioned at the beginning. So the fact is that in some respects we're all a bit rebellious. We don't like being told what to do. That said, although we don't necessarily like to admit it, we do like being guided. And when it comes to money and personal finances, there's an element of us all being a bit nosy, and therefore we like benchmarks. So what we do as a business is we use, in particular, nudge theory, which is a huge inspiration for our business. We use our understanding of how the human mind works to really maximize and drive that engagement. So one example of that is something called confidence bias, where as individuals, we're predisposed to try and beat a benchmark, an average. So when it's something positive like saving, if we see how much people like us are saving, our instinct for the majority of us is to try and beat that. So by careful positioning of benchmarks, particularly around people like you, we can really start to influence and encourage certain behaviours from employees. So as I say, they are 5 of 30 plays. I hope that was a useful taster, and look forward to any questions that may follow. Thank you, Andrew.
All right.